One of the biggest proponents of the existence of a parallel universe is the Mandela effect, which, if you don't know, refers to a situation in which a large group of people believes that an event occurred when it, in fact, did not. At least, not in this reality. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another video. My name is Kennedy, and today we are going to be counting down the top 10 real parallel universe photographs that will make you rethink everything. Starting us off at number 10 is the Berenstain Bears. So growing up in the 90s, this one was a classic. It was both an adorable children's book and also a TV show, and I mean, it was just a great story about a family of bears and a memorable part of my childhood. However, you would think, being so memorable and all, we would all be on the same page about how it was spelt. Apparently not. The Berenstain Bears falls victim to the Mandela effect because despite what many remember, the name Berenstain is spelt with an A, like stain. But many, including myself, would put money on the fact that it was Berenstain, like with an E. The first time I read this one, my brain broke a little, and I still have a hard time with it. But let me know, which spelling do you guys remember? Was it an E or with an A? Moving on to number 9, the Monopoly Man. When you think about Monopoly, you probably think about 10-hour games with your siblings that end up in tears, screaming matches, and somehow wanting to play it again, but you also remember that the Monopoly Man had a monocle, right? Apparently not. According to the company, photos, advertisements, and even giant balloons of the Moneybags character, he has never had a monocle. Not once. Yet still, so many people claim to have seen him sporting one for many years. I mean, it all just feels wrong. What parallel universe got the monocle Monopoly Man? Because apparently it wasn't ours. Moving on to number 8, Skechers. Another parallel universe Mandela effect in the spelling department is the popular shoe brand Skechers. Most people agree that the brand Skechers spells their name S-K-E-T-C-H-E-R-S, mostly because, well, it makes a lot of sense, but also because that is how a large amount of the population remember seeing it spelled. However, in reality, or at least in this version of reality, the brand name spells it without a T, so S-K-E-C-H-E-R-S. Now, of course, some people attribute this Mandela effect to just a bad memory or you being a kid and not paying attention to things, which is totally fair, but there are many adults who are sure they bought shoes and the brand spelt the name with a T. So how do you explain that? I don't know, man. What do you guys think? Which one do you remember seeing? Next up at number 7, Pikachu. In the 90s, Pokemon was pretty much the biggest show there was. And if you ask just about any 90s kid, they will likely tell you that they remember Pikachu having a black end on his tail. But apparently, we are all in the same fever dream because the black tip on the end of Pikachu's tail never existed. Ash's Pikachu, along with all the others, had black ends on the ears and a brown base on the tail, but the tip was just plain old yellow. Now, with this one, there could be a little bit of a reason aside from a possible clue of a parallel universe as to why we all have this collective memory. It has been proposed that because Pikachu's earlier evolution, Pichu, actually does have a black tail, our little brains remembered that and assumed the black part stayed, which might be one option. But the parallel universe theory is way more fun, so I'm gonna stick with that. Moving on to number 6, Abe Vigoda. Although Abe Vigoda will always be famous for his role in The Godfather, it will never be his biggest claim to fame. That's because in 1982, Vigoda was reported dead by People magazine. The only problem? he didn't actually die for another 30 years. Even crazier is that despite him still being alive and well 5 years later, a local newspaper in New Jersey reported him dead again. Naturally, this became a long-standing joke among comics. In fact, during a roast hour, comedian Jeff Ross said, "My one regret is that Abe Vigoda isn't alive to see this," which was followed by Vigoda jumping up in mock anger from his seat in the audience and shaking his fist at Ross. Thankfully, he seems to have had a good sense of humor about the whole situation, but still, how can not one but two companies declare and publish that a man has died who is very much still alive? Well, some think that's because he might have actually died in a different reality. Interestingly, when the actor actually passed away in 2016, reporters were hesitant to pick up the story just in case it was an error. Moving on to number 5. Fruit of the Loom. The famous underwear company was founded in 1851 and has been a household staple ever since. But it's not the spelling on this one that has people questioning if it's from a parallel universe, but the logo. As you likely know, the logo for the Fruit of the Loom is a bunch of fruit, an apple and some grapes, but some online argue that in the past there was a cornucopia present behind all the produce. The theory started a few years ago in 2018 when a Redditor started a thread in the Mandela Effect subreddit, and they posted a photo of what they remembered the Fruit of the Loom logo looking like, with a cornucopia behind all the fruit. And after they shared that, it turned out they were not alone. The Redditor even allegedly sent a DM to the Fruit of the Loom Instagram account to double check, and the employee who answered confirmed that no, the cornucopia had never existed, but that, quote, "even some of us are still convinced it was a thing." So apparently, despite the collective groupthink, the Fruit of the Loom logo has never, to the best of anyone's knowledge, included a cornucopia in its 130-year existence. Moving on to number 4, Henry VIII. One of the most famous Mandela effects is the well-known portrait of King Henry VIII, painted by Hans Holbein the Younger in 1537. In the photo, the king can be seen holding a glove, except many people don't remember it being a glove at all. They remember it being a turkey leg. Now, some say that the pop culture portrayal of King Henry VIII is to blame for the confusion. For example, in the 1933 film The Private Life of Henry VIII, the king devours almost an entire chicken, and while portraying the king in a 2004 episode of The Simpsons, Homer Simpson also munches on a turkey leg. So culturally, we kind of have this image that he's just always eating a piece of meat, I guess. But not only that, historians believe that King Henry VIII may have been the one to introduce turkey into Christmas feasts. So in that sense, it would make sense for him to be holding one. Still, apparently, according to experts, the turkey leg phenomenon is not real. At least, not in this universe. Moving on to number 3, emojis. There are so many emojis that honestly, when it comes to the lesser used ones, I don't think I could tell you what there is or isn't an emoji of. But there are some out there who are sure that they have used emojis that apparently never existed. One of these emojis is a left-facing seahorse. According to one Reddit user, they posted saying that they are dead set and even remember where the seahorse used to sit on the keyboard, to which many other online users agreed that they too remember a left-facing orange seahorse. But interestingly, that is not the only emoji that people remember once existing. Apparently, there has never been a robber. There's never been a slice of pumpkin pie with whipped cream, a hiker, a toaster, or a swordfish. Yet there are many who claim that they have a clear memory of using these emojis. Do any of you remember using these? Do you remember any others that apparently have never existed? Coming in at number 2, Shaggy's Adam's apple. Scooby-Doo was a huge part of so many people's childhoods, but according to some online, there appears to be something missing from the photos of the old cartoons these days. Shaggy's Adam's apple. One Reddit user, CyberGothicChe, posted saying, quote, "As I recall, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo had quite a large Adam's apple. In fact, I believe it was used for comical effect, both when he ate something and also when he gulped in fear. His Adam's apple would move quite a distance, indicating the movement of his throat muscles." Others have also noted that Shaggy has lost his Adam's apple. This seems to be a recent Mandela effect, as I have not heard it prior except once or twice. Now, many other Redditors responded in agreement, saying that they too remembered this Adam's apple. And if I think back to the old cartoons, I wanna say that I remember it too. Now, here is where it gets a little confusing. So there have been tons of different versions of Shaggy, and apparently in one version, the 2015 TV series, he does have an Adam's apple, but none of the other versions show that. Now, some have wondered if this more recent version, including the Adam's apple, is why we remember it always being that way. But then others have pointed out that it would be strange to just give him an Adam's apple out of nowhere if he never had one, even going back to like the 60s. So was it just animators trying something new, or did the Shaggy from another universe slip into this one? And last up in our number 1 spot, Jiffy. Depending on who you ask, the famous peanut butter brand is either called Jif or Jiffy. These days we are being told it was never called Jiffy, but there are some online who remember things a little differently. In a Reddit thread about the Jiffy peanut butter Mandela effect, user Albino Raccoon posted a photo seemingly proving that those who remembered Jiffy peanut butter were not losing their minds. In the post, he shared both a photo and a video of a restaurant menu that advertised what they called a Jiffy burger, and beside it was a photo of the classic peanut butter jar with the word Jiffy written across. Other Redditors responded in support. For example, Berenstain said, quote, "I noticed this change about 10 years ago. Obviously, I didn't know about the Mandela effect at the time, so I assumed they just rebranded it. 10 years later, I find out it never existed. I'd sure love to know how I saw it in my mom's kitchen throughout my childhood then." Now, some think that believers of this particular effect are misremembering Skippy peanut butter, but I mean, what do you guys think? Team Jif or Team Jiffy? Well, that's all I got for you today, friends. Do you guys believe in a parallel universe, and have you ever heard of these Mandela effects? More importantly, do you believe them, or do you think we all just have a bad memory? Let me know in the comments below, and I hope you have an amazing day. See you next time.